What up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Full Metal Analysis. So, everybody can relax. You know what I'm saying? What we pretty much thought was gonna happen happened this week. Everybody figured we'd come out and you know, give it to the Commanders to know how we wanted to. If you want to call it a revenge game, I guess you can. But the major story of this game is I think all last week I was annoying you. Like right after we got done with our podcast, man, I was annoying you. Johnny Morton did an interview, and I text you like almost immediately. Like I was pissed. I was crashing out. I was like, that's what the kids say, right? Crashing out. I was crashing out, man. I was like, man, this some bullshit, man. He done threw the line under the bus. He ain't take no accountability. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, I wasn't calling for the man to get fired, but you know what I'm saying? I was like, man, that's some bullshit. That ain't right. I don't like that at all. And lo and behold, what happens on the sideline this Sunday? Dan Campbell's out there calling the plays, man. What's your thoughts on this whole Johnny Morton fiasco, man?
I mean, it is. I mean, you was telling me a story the other day, and the party involved is a little bit different, but the party involved essentially. I'm not gonna say that they created their problem, but they resolved their problem in the end, and that's kind of like this whole Lion situation, man. Like there's really no need to bring in John Morton, but they did, and when they did, I was really I was on the fence about it. I thought it was a weird hire because this whole staff is for the most part young, up and coming, first time first time coaches,
Right.
and then now you go and you hire John Morton, who's been involved in the NFL for like well over a decade. So I thought that was a weird hire to begin with. And then I told you the only report or rumor that I heard about John Morton coming from Denver was that he was an asshole. That's the best way to put it. He was an asshole, and we got into a debate on whether or not Ben Johnson was really in tune with the players and whatnot. But all that being said, man, we got through training camp, we got through everything, we got through preseason, and and we got through the first 8 games of the season, and then lo and behold, according to Dan Campbell, man, last week was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
No, man, I don't think it was so much that as what I was telling you in my text messages, man. Like this guy come out, and everybody was wanting to give the guy a chance, man. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wanted to give the guy a chance. I wasn't even calling for his job. I was saying that we've been saying, everybody's been saying that we want the offense a little better. You know what I'm saying? The offense looks okay, but we're going for a Super Bowl. It needs to be running. It needs to be running almost better than it was last year. And so far, it had been a step under what it was looking like last year. And we could all see the potential. We all see the that it's ready, available. It's like, but why aren't they doing what we wanted to do? Why isn't it running like we wanted to? And then we go out and we have a bad game, maybe the worst game in a few years against Minnesota. And we could clearly see that the line was struggling. We could clearly see that Johnny Morton was struggling. We could clearly see that everybody had they faults in that game. Everybody, the running backs, and then right after that game, everybody came out. The players, my bad, fucked up. You know what I'm saying? That's on me. I'm gonna do better next week. Defensive coordinator. Defense had an all right game. Defense came out. My bad, fucked up. That's on me. Offensive lineman came out. My bad, fucked up. That's on me. Johnny Morton come out. Hey, them niggas not blocking. I can write up the best players in the world. You know what I mean? Shit, if niggas ain't blocking, what y'all want me to do? I ain't on me. I ain't got no faults in this. That what y'all want from me? And I think that's the straw that broke the camel's back. Like nobody gave Johnny Morton the memo that that's not how we do things. That's not how the Lions do things around there. We don't throw guys on the bus. We take responsibility and we do things.
I don't think that was it. At this point, there's no reason to believe anything that anybody says. But all we could do is believe what they say until we are proven or informed otherwise. But according, the media, obviously grilled Dan Campbell after the game, and he said that he stripped Morton of play calling duty after the Minnesota game. So it was the Minnesota game that just where he was like, we can't do this. The thing is that the Minnesota game was bad, but this was still a top 10 offense with John Morton calling the plays. With Dan Campbell calling plays, it looked a lot better. There's two things I'll say about it. The first thing is that your biggest complaint, if you would have told me 6 months ago that you would be on the podcast defending John Morton, I would have said that's not Marcus. I don't know who that guy is. But I'm not even defending John Morton. I'm just stating the facts. That's all I'm doing here. With Dan Campbell calling the plays, right? Mm-hmm. The offense did look a lot smoother. I'll say smoother. But there really wasn't a change. Gibbs, the biggest changes I said I'll see in there is that Gibbs and Montgomery both had 15 carries and they both ate. Gibbs had over 100 yards. Montgomery had 70 yards. They continually ran the ball to Penei Sewell's side. I don't recall John Morton doing that a whole lot. Like off the top of my head, I don't know why, but I feel like he always had Gibbs running to the left and or up the middle. So Dan Campbell made it a point to run it to Penei Sewell's side, and obviously Penei Sewell's gonna carve you a path out. So that was one thing. But Jared Goff had a Jared Goff game. Amon-Ra had 5 catches for 58 yards, a touchdown. Laporta had a couple catches for like 50 yards. They got Raymond involved. Everybody got involved, which was similar to how it used to be with Ben Johnson. And so I think that's what Dan Campbell pretty much, wants to see. But the biggest thing, the only thing that Dan Campbell took over for is because Dan Campbell is like, he's like me, he's like you, and he's like half of the fans in the Lions Nation. Dan Campbell just wanted to see J-Mo touch the ball. And he like, man, all this, we got to get him involved and we got to do this and scheme and it's not enough time to all that bullshit is what Dan Campbell said. And Dan Campbell got J-Mo involved. J-Mo had a season high of yards in that game, caught a touchdown, and the offense was rolling. Now, what the other thing I'll say is that, yeah, the offense looked way smoother, but we played the Washington Commanders. And the Washington Commanders, the last 4 games before they played Detroit, were giving up an average of 33.8 yards per game and conceding 410 yards per game in the last 4 games. So, I mean, we did better than that, because we were well above that. They were averaging 33 points. We put up 44 points. They were averaging 410 yards. We blew that out, 546 yards. But that being said, this was a bad defense, and they lost more guys during the game due to ejections. I don't know if anybody got hurt during the game, but it was this is a bad team without their quarterback. And so I guess my question to you is, would it have looked that much? It wouldn't. Like I said, it couldn't have gone smoother unless it was pretty much like you brought back Ben Johnson. Like that's what it looked like that last game. But that being said, if John Morton was calling the plays, do you think it would have been like a close game? Do you think we would have put up like, I don't know, say 10 or 15 less points?
Yeah. I think we would have put up like 10 or 15 less points. I think it still would have been a blowout, but I think it would have looked like the Browns and Cincinnati game. Like those two games should have been blowouts, and they kind of sort of were, but it was like we were leaving points on the field. Like in the Browns game and the Cincinnati game, we should have scored way more points than what we did. But the offense was just stalling out, and you never felt like you was in danger of losing those games, but you just felt like we could do more. And even though it was Washington, and because I've heard that complaint all week long, it was just Washington. But yeah, but it was just Washington. But you know what I'm saying? This game gave us the blowout that we thought we should have had in against those other bad teams, and especially against Minnesota. Like we lost to Minnesota by 3 points, and we drive stalled out. We left points on the field. You know what I'm saying? In this Washington game, even though they're not a good team and they had injuries, you know what I'm saying? You scored every time you had the ball. Like every time you had the ball, you scored. Like every single time. There were no points left out there on the field, and a lot of the times it's not even the defense that's stopping us. Um, it's just something that the offense is doing. And yeah, Dan Campbell. I don't expect Dan Campbell to call the plays to look any difference. But it's those subtle changes that he made. The order in which he's calling the plays that makes all the difference. Like I there have been numerous of times where me and you said that this guy's calling the right play in the wrong moment. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is the key difference of what makes this offense, even though it's a top tier offense. We still got elite guys on our offense. So guys are going to make plays, but what's making it not look smooth? What's stalling the offenses, stalling drives out is just the inconsistency, the unsmoothness of the way it's running, and I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I know your biggest complaint that I off the top of my head, in the well, I won't say it's over, but in the John Morton era, the biggest complaint that I feel like has come from you is that this guy is not making any adjustments, and I think that when you watch Dan Campbell call that game, it is a whole different philosophy, I guess, if you just kind of step back and look at it, because it's not that Dan Campbell makes adjustments, it's that Dan Campbell doesn't feel the need. He doesn't feel like the Lions should be in a situation where adjustments need to be made. Dan Campbell Dan Campbell came in as a Lions coach. They handed him how to be a head coach. They handed him how to be a head coach playbook, and he took it and he threw it out the window. And so, in Dan Campbell's mind, to your point, the Lions have built a team of elite offensive playmakers. That is their identity, is an elite offense, and Dan Campbell feels like this team should come out here and hit you in the mouth. And by the time you realize what happened, we should have already put up 3 touchdowns or at least got a nice head start on you. And that's the way Dan Campbell coaches. John Morton, like I said, has been in the league for so long. He's of the mindset that this is a game. This is a chess match. Before we go out there and show them our best moves, I want to see what they're bringing. I want to see what they're doing today. And then I'm a quote unquote adjust to that. And And Dan Campbell is like, nah, man, we gotta go. We got the game plan. Let's just go out here and give it to him. And this timid, half stepping, all of that. No, that's not how Dan Campbell does things. So him taking over the game, I envision is a step towards him getting the Lions back to what they would do, which is go out there and just put it all on the line.
Yeah, man, and essentially he said as much, man. They got him in an interview, and he said, first off, you know what I'm saying, we got back to who we are. You know what I'm saying? He said, and the most important thing I heard him say is, I know my guys. I know my guys. I know what they can do. So it's like he's saying that it feels like he's saying that Johnny doesn't understand what the guys are about, what the guys can do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he has an idea, but he doesn't know him as well as I guess Ben Johnson and Dan got to know him over since he left. You know what I'm saying? We both said that when Ben Johnson was here, Ben Johnson talked to the guys. He found out what plays they like to run. You know what I'm saying? He talked to them about what they felt comfortable doing, and they played book around that. And Dan was there that whole time. You know, was there step by step with Ben figuring out these things. So when he got an interview, he said, yeah, I know my guys. I know what they're capable of. I know what they can do. And it just felt like he called plays according to that. Whereas Johnny Morton just feels like he's calling plays to, well, this is what I like to do, and y'all got to adjust to what I like to do. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that aspect, man. Another thing that I was wondering is the last like 3 or 4 games, we've been taking the ball the first half. We've been accepting the ball. When Dan Campbell gets and he's calling plays, and we defer to the second half, and I think that had a big influence on the game as well.
Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like that's up to Dan Campbell, regardless of who's calling the plays. But it takes me back to they brought up, obviously they brought up Anthony Lynn, and everybody has said that this is not an Anthony Lynn situation. Of course, Jared Goff's insulted by a lot of questions. He was insulted by that question. And Dan Campbell just said, Dan Campbell's quote was, I know how the other one ended, but he insisted that John Morton is a vital, quote unquote, vital piece to this team. So we can take that for what it's worth. But Anthony Lynn, I didn't think that, to your point, I didn't think that Anthony Lynn was a bad offensive coordinator. When he first got here, I remember watching the Lions line up, and I remember I don't know why, but in one play in particular, that play stood out so vivid to me, where they lined up in trips, shotgun trips, and I don't you don't even see, at the time we didn't see that a lot in Detroit, and I just remember Goff dropping back. And I think he ended up getting sacked or checking down. I don't know. It didn't work out. But I was like, man, no, that's a good, these are nice packages and plays that he's running. But the thing was, to your point, we didn't have the guys to do that. Goff didn't have the faith in his teammates at the time. We had a who's who of people at that time. And
right.
The Brashad Perrimans and the Tyrell Williams, and obviously guys that are not here anymore. So and now fast forward to now, again, like you say, Dan knows his guys. He knows that this offensive line is not what it was last year, but at the same time, it's not what it was against Minnesota. And in that game, you could see it, man. The dropbacks that Goff was doing. I vividly remember against Minnesota. It was just last week, but still, like Minnesota, it's like, damn, get rid of the ball. And then sometimes he didn't even have an opportunity to get rid of the ball because it's a 5-step drop. But yesterday, man, it was a lot of 3-step drops. It was that ball was out. The offensive line didn't even need to block that long, and that's probably that's what Dan wanted to see. But to your point, that's what John Morton was like. Hey man, they just gotta do better, and the play will look a lot better.
So we all know that the Lions like to protect guys even when they done with them. And like you said, Dan came out and said he was like, well, no, it's not an Aaron Lynn thing, it's not an Anthony Lynn thing, and then he threw out this little quote, which I don't know, it just sounded like a lie to me. But yeah, Johnny was in my ear the whole time, helping me call up plays, man. I mean, he was involved. Everybody was involved. I need Johnny Morton in my ear, man. He's helping out. I mean, I was just the one calling the plays, you know what I'm saying? But he was helping. And it just sounded like Johnny might be done. I'm not gonna say for sure that he's done, but going forward, man, what do you think Johnny Morton's role is in the offense? Do you think that Dan was just like, I'm gonna show you how we do it. I'm gonna give you one more chance. I'm gonna let you take back over. Or do you think Dan is like, hey man, I ain't gonna fire you. I ain't gonna embarrass you, but you can't run my offense no more.
It's a great question. I was gonna ask you, so I'll ask you for your answer after I give mine. I saw it as three different possibilities. The beat writer for the Lions, he said that Dan Campbell said that he stripped Morton of his play calling duties after Minnesota, but I never actually heard Dan Campbell use those words. So I can't say that it's 100%. My thoughts were that it was one of three things. It was Campbell really wanted to exercise some demons against Washington, so he wanted to send a message. That was choice A. Choice B was he's taking over play calling duties, and then choice C was hey, go sit in the corner, old man, and let me show you how to do it. And going forward, this is how I want it done. But if you ask me, at this point, man, no, this, in my opinion, was a precursor, a warm up, a opportunity to make sure that you are gonna be comfortable and going forward on the path that you're about to go down. So why not get the tune up against Washington, and then we'll be ready to roll against Philadelphia. I can't envision. I can envision it. I don't know why you would give the keys back to John Morton. You've already they say you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. I don't want to use embarrassed. I don't want to use emasculated. You've you patted them on the head. I can't think of a nice way to say it, but
you gotta put it out there for everybody to see. You did it in front of everybody.
Exactly. So then you're gonna come back and give them a pat on the head and give them a juice box and tell them, all right, champ, go get them. Like, no, man, it's hard. It's so hard to go back. And then, the second he messes up, now he's got to answer those questions. Like, everybody's got to answer those questions. And Dan's got to answer those questions. Well, Dan, are you going to take over play calling duty like you did that one time? Like, and so at this point, you might.
And since he's fucking up, why did you put him in the first place? Because I'm already hearing the questions. Why did you hire him in the first place?
That's a great question. That's a great question. But I'm sure Dan would tell you that he's a vital piece to this team, and His input is highly respected, and he does a lot to get us ready for the game, but he's just not allowed to call plays anymore.
Detroit